And the HF9V, are you ready for this? $750. And that just gives you the antenna. That doesn't give you wire for the radials, because this thing needs as many radials as you can give it. I think I had 30 when I put the thing out there. What I discovered is that the thing does not perform at all unless it has a big radial field. Now, the radials are all different lengths because they were put in at different times and so on. I used the DX Engineering radial mounting plate to hook them together. And did it work? Yes, it worked. It worked very well. But now the problem was, I've had it for so long, over, I think, close to 25 years. Okay. And it works, but it doesn't work any better than that vertical antenna I showed you could make yourself if you're going to hang it from a tall tree. Doesn't work any better. A vertical is a vertical is a vertical. Okay? Now, that's a very expensive way of doing it. Now, and that worked. By the way, when it did work, it was a very good antenna. I was able to use it for a lot of DX. It'll take full legal power and so on. Now, what was the problem with the antenna? The problem with the antenna that I ran into, besides the fact that it needed a lot of radials, I used insulated radials. My first radials were buried bare radials, and the antenna did not work well with them at all. All I can say about that antenna is it was well grounded, but it needs to work against a radial field, and it can't find the radial field if it's very much underground by more than an inch or two, and this was about 6 inches deep. So it was well grounded, still well grounded, but it was actual radials laid on the ground that did the job for me. Okay, now you can go down to Home Depot and get some staples that are about this size. They're called garden staples. And they come in a bag, and they're about that size. Okay? So you can put a radial wire out, and then every few feet put one of these garden staples, stretch that radial tight, put the garden staple on it, and in a few years the grass will have grown up around that, and you won't have a problem with the lawnmower picking up the radial or anything like that. That's the theory. Mine I just lay out there because we live in a covenant-controlled community that does not permit landscaping. It does permit antennas, not specifically, but does not prohibit them. But it does prohibit landscaping because this area around here is supposed to be left natural. It just broke my heart that I can't mow the grass. Golly, I tell you. Anyway, what of the SteppIR, BigIR vertical? Okay, it's a long tube, and down at the bottom is a coil of copper tape. And it's got a little stepper motor in here, and it will push this tape up this all the way to the top for 40 meters. For 20 meters, it withdraws the tape down to here, and so on. Now, if you get on like 12, 15, 12, and 10, you can use the 3/4 button, and it'll push it up to give you a 3/4 antenna. And that really works very nicely. Now, what do I use for radials for this? You have to put radials on this. It comes with a radial kit with 16 radials. I just added those to the radials that I already have. Okay, so it's got all the original radials plus 16 additional radials, okay, out there. How well does the antenna work? It works extremely well. I haven't had any trouble with it. One of the nice things is that they claim is that you can get it just exactly right for any frequency. So you don't need an antenna tuner. Well, now there's a problem with their assertion of that, because here's the antenna. The feed point impedance is about 30 ohms for vertical. Okay, if you've got a 50 ohm, you're going to get about a 1.6 to 1 SteppIR. So I used the tuner in my radio. They wrote to me and said, don't do that. It can tune exactly. No, it can't. You can get the R, you can get the X down to 0, but the R is still going to be about 30 to 35 ohms. Now, the thing also has at the base a coil, and it's got taps on it. And you can set the taps from inside the shack to cover the entire 80-meter band. There's an advantage. The entire 80-meter band up to 75-meter phone, all of that can be covered with this antenna. That's very nice. It's a nice little additional feature. Okay. Now there is a problem with this antenna, and that is its extraordinary expense. Let me show you. We're just going to go to SteppIR, and I'm not sure. Okay, SteppIR.com. Okay, we're going to go to amateur radio, and we're going to go to home. We'll have to just keep going down here. We want a vertical antenna. There's 3 of them they have. The BigIR is the one that I have. And you have to select the controller for the package. You can add a cabling there is cabling that goes between this remote control and the base of the antenna. You can add a radial kit, you can add a choke if you want, 4 conductor cables, so on and so forth. And let me just pick some common options for that. Controller type, there's 2 types. There's an optimizer IR, which is exotic, okay, or you can do the SDA 100 like I have. You're going to have to add some cable for this. Let's say yes, and we want the 80-meter coil. And just for fun, let's pick a 40-meter to 6-meter radial kit. Quantity radial kits, 1 at a choke. I don't have that. 4 conductor control cable. I have about 100 feet of that. Okay. And another one for the loading coil. And a voltage suppressor, which is kind of like a lightning arrestor. They gave me one of those. What am I up to here? $2,820. 2820 $.00. Okay. It's exotic. It's expensive. It's horribly expensive. Now, I will tell you, I got a deal from them. They dropped that down to just, quote, 1,000, only 1,000. I could get a very nice vertical antenna for 1,000. But they dropped it down to 1,000 so that I could review it. And I'll review it and tell you it's a fabulous antenna. It works every time. It's well protected from the elements. I have not had any trouble with that tape. I can operate on 80 meters. I can do all kinds of things with this antenna. But $2,800, good grief. You can buy a whale of a nice radio for that amount of money. And do you want to know the bottom line? It's just a vertical. Okay? It's not going to perform any better than that vertical that I showed you at the beginning, how to make it work. Okay? It's just a vertical. Now, the other kind of verticals are actually half-wave dipoles. Electrically. That means they're electrically shortened with loading of different types, all kinds of weird capacitive arrangements out here and so on. And you don't need radials. In fact, they want you to have this thing about 10 feet off the ground. Okay, there are some little counterpoises down here because you've got essentially the equivalent of about a 49-to-1 Talon at the bottom of it. It's an end-fed antenna. Okay, and you can now have these up high, whereas the ones with dipoles, if you have them high, you have to put 2 tuned radials for every band that are 1/4 wavelength for that band, 2 of them, and then 2 of them for the next band, and so on. That's how I did my 14 AVQ. Okay, so this is the other kind. Let's look up a common one of these. It's the AV640. It's just 4310. AV640. And I think it's at Cushcraft. They've got them in stock at DX Engineering for only $660. $660. But now here is the advantage. You don't need radials. Can you put them in? Yeah, but not really going to do that much for you. So this antenna can fit in a very small space. The vertical antenna. Now note this comes as a kit, and it will cost you a day or 2 days or 3 days to put the thing together. Now I'm going to repeat my standard safety instructions on antennas. 1, don't do antenna work alone. 2, don't do it near power lines. 3, long things, as you saw recently in a video when we put the cobweb up, long things are unwieldy. This may be only 25 pounds up here on top of a 20-foot stick, and you're trying to hold it here. Let me tell you, the strongest man alive can't do it because of this 20-foot lever arm. Okay? You get momentum. You've got to keep that thing vertical or have other people around you to help you with ropes and wires and so on. And then lastly, besides getting somebody to help with the antenna, there's one final position, and that is safety observer. Have someone with a cell phone whose only job it is to call 911 in the event of a mishap. If that person has some other responsibility in addition to that, then they may find themselves in a position where they have to drop something in order to get their phone. So get your wife, get your teenage kid, get somebody who's responsible to be there with that safety observer job. If that antenna falls into a power line, seconds can count, okay? So there's just a lot that goes with that. Be careful. Remember, the first rule of antennas is that everything affects everything, and putting up that antenna can affect you too, okay? So there you have it. A little bit about different kinds of antennas. Yes, I do like my antenna. It's Keeper. It is my standard antenna for comparisons, okay? Because yes, it is just a vertical, but it's a very fine vertical made properly, and it gets the most oomph out of a vertical that you can get. Now, any of these other verticals can give you the same thing. If you've got radials, you've got it connected right, you know, and so on and so forth. Okay? So there you have it. If you would like to support this channel, you can. dcasler.com/support. If you'd like to enter the giveaway, you can. dcasler.com/giveaway. Please subscribe, please like, and until we next meet, 73.